Good afternoon and welcome to Let's Talk TCI Real Estate. It is a pleasure to be in your homes on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. And I am just so happy to be able to share with you another really exciting topic that's pertaining to real estate in the Turks and Caicos Islands. As always, I would invite you to like and share the page. I would also invite you at this time, as you are sharing the page, please share it to your Facebook stories. Okay, the topic today is a topic that is, I think, dear to a lot of people's heart here in the Turks and Caicos Islands, and especially with so much that is going on, everyone wants to know about mortgage opportunities in the Turks and Caicos Islands. So while I give you a few minutes to share the page, and like the page, I would just want to remind you about last week's show. We did speak about real estate prices in the Turks and Caicos Islands. And at that time, we spoke about the active prices on the market for sale. We also spoke about sold properties and also properties that are actually pending. All right. So please, if you missed that show, please use the opportunity to go back and take a look. Also, as tomorrow is April 1st, I want to remind you about the government's first-time home buyers stamp duty initiative that is actually going to be active as of the 1st of April, which is tomorrow. We've spoken about it a few times on the show, just outlining what it is about. I will also say to you that there was a press release that was issued on the government webpage, gov.tc. It also outlines what the home buyers policy is about. There's also a contact number on that same page where you can refer to for further information. I'm mentioning this to you because I believe it is a really good opportunity for those who are looking to make a purchase in the Turks and Caicos Islands once you are a resident of the island. All right, so without any further delay, because we would like to use all the time to get into this exciting topic, we're going to move forward. But I just want to say, if you have any comments or questions, please feel free. This is your opportunity to ask those questions and leave those comments in the comment section. All right, and so without any further delay, I would like to say thank you so much for my guest, Mr. Vaughn Paisley, for joining me from G&P. He is actually the managing director, but I am going to allow him to introduce himself and give a bit more information. Thank you for joining me. Please go ahead, Vaughn.
Thank you so much for having me this afternoon. It's a pleasure to get to know you a little bit better in this forum. So my name, as you mentioned, is Vaughn Paisley, and I am managing director of G&P Capital and G&P Mortgage Fund. We are new on the island. We've only been operating for about, say, 5-6 months now. And we're trying our best to get our name out there and let everybody know what we're doing.
Great. So tell me, so you're trying to get your name out there. Give me a little bit more about the company as to terms of how long have you been around and what services actually does G&P offers?
Okay, so well, as mentioned, we've been around, we're operational since about October of last year, although we've actually been licensed for a number of years now. Just with COVID and a number of other little delays, we didn't actually launch until just 6 months ago. The company itself, we're affiliated with Griffiths and Partners Attorneys, as I'm sure the name for a lot of people who've been on island for a while would recognize. And we're also affiliated with WB Financial, who's an accounting firm. So they handle all of our back end fund administration, and obviously the legal work and is done by Griffiths and Partners.
Sounds good. So you offer mortgages to individuals. Could you tell me a little bit more about your mortgage or loan programs? What kind of loans do you offer?
Okay, well, first of all, they have to be secured by real estate. So I just want to get that out there, so we're not, getting all kinds of inquiries for business loans or vehicle loans and whatnot. So it's only real estate. And what we offer, 1 to 3 year, generally fixed terms, although we can do open or closed. The payments can be interest only or amortized. We lend on land, existing homes, and construction of villas. We can do some commercial as well, but because we're a newer company, we're trying to stick a little bit more to the residential side.
Okay.
Yeah, and right now, because we're new, our target market is going to be Provo. We're sticking not exclusively to Provo, but that's really our target market right now.
Okay, so more Provo and not the outer islands.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. So let me say, so what's the difference in requirements for if you are processing a loan for a resident versus a non-resident? And I would ask, of course, what is there a difference in the interest rate?
Okay, so good question, but no, there's no differences at all. We really, we're what's known as an equity lender. And what that means is that we focus primarily on how much equity someone has in the home and also the home itself. How marketable is that home? Those are the two things we primarily look at. So whether you are a resident or a non-resident, the same rules are going to apply in both cases. So I like to give the example of, for example, if we had one home that was identical on Grace Bay to a home that was on North Caicos, and the homes are exactly the same, the pricing was set according to what the market should be in those two markets. The marketability in Provo is so much higher than it would be on North Caicos. So that's where, as a company, we have to, I guess, mitigate the risks for our clients or for our investors. So that's why we choose to lend in Provo, because if there's ever any issues, we know we can sell that property a lot quicker on Grace Bay Beach than we can, for example, on a beach in North Caicos. So the marketability really is the key. Now, having said that, it also goes the other way. So if we have a non-resident or a resident and they're looking in an area where we don't lend, then it doesn't matter who they are, we're not going to do that loan. So really, when you're talking non-residents or residents, there's no difference between the two for us in terms of the qualification.
Okay. What about the percentage down? Like, what is there a difference, resident
Nope.
versus non-resident? And
Nope.
what is the percentage that you have?
So it depends on what you're buying, but generally, if it's an existing home or condo, we're looking at 35% down. So we'll finance 65% of the property, but just the property. We don't finance furniture. So we'll get an appraisal done, and whatever they determine the value is minus the furniture is what we'll finance.
Okay. So in talking about numbers, I know with some companies, they actually lend, they wouldn't lend at, based on a minimum a month. So for example, if your purchase is under 250,000, they would not lend on it. Do you also have that same minimum threshold, or do you lend on any real estate?
Well, we don't have a specific rule about the amount that the person can spend, but we do kind of have a guideline internally that we don't want to lend less than $100,000, or if we do, not too much less. So generally, if you're, say, looking in Provo, because that's, again, where we're kind of focused right now, that would be maybe $150,000 or $160,000 lot. So that would kind of be our minimum. But again, we don't have any hard and fast minimum rules. It's just kind of guidelines.
Okay. So I can't recall if you had said before, do you lend on pre-construction for pre-construction purposes?
Okay, so
like someone is
by
buying.
that question,
Sorry, I can go first. Sorry. I know that pre-construction takes the shape of different scenarios, because there could be someone buying pre-construction where they purchase the land outright, and then they are then at a pre-construction stage for the building until it's completed. But then at the same time, I know that there is where you may have to just put a deposit down, and they are not required to pay those monthly payments, and then the lender will just provide the final balance at the end of construction. So I'm not sure what type of lending you do, but I'm just generally on pre-construction. Do you lend on pre-construction?
Okay, so I'm going to answer it this way because I've been getting a lot of inquiries on this, and I thought it kind of touched a little bit into what your question was. There is some new developments coming on that are condos, and a lot of people are wanting to buy these condos with pre-construction financing. Now, in those situations, we can't really get involved in those. We can only finance them when they're done. And the reason for that is, as a lender, we're kind of stuck in no man's land if things go sideways with the developer. Really, we don't have enough money to complete the project, the full project. And really, we only have a mortgage on one of the units. So it's really kind of a non-starter anyways. We can't sell the unit because it's only partially done. And the clients, chances are they're going to walk away because they've got a unit that's half done that they can't use. So they're going to leave. So that's kind of the reason why we don't get involved in those pre-construction condo developments. But if you're talking about construction in terms of buying land and building a villa, then absolutely we have construction financing for those.
Okay. So is there like, in talking about that building construction then, do you have like a set criteria for something like that? Meaning that should that person have to put down like, say, 20% or be able to, before you can lend, what is the requirements for building construction?
Right. So we treat it very similar to our regular existing loans. So we want the client to have 35% equity in the total cost. So that includes the land and the construction. So for us, we kind of, we set our guidelines where we never want to exceed 65% of whatever the value is at that point in time. So that's why we will have appraisers go out through the process and assess the values to make sure that we don't exceed that 65% threshold.
Okay. And I'm just wondering, is this the case for smaller vacation home construction? I know you're saying you're not into the commercial, but say someone wants to put like a residential townhome, which is at a larger scale, that process is the same, whether it's a single villa or something like that?
Yeah, as long as it's something that we can finance the whole piece. So we can't, again, in that situation, if we're just financing one unit, then we can't really get involved in the construction side of that. We have to wait till it's
Sorry, when I
complete.
say one unit, I'm just talking about standalone home. I'm not talking about a
Yes.
whole development. Okay, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the standalone home, absolutely, we can get involved in that. That's not an issue at all.
Okay. So let me ask you this: why should a person choose to use your mortgage company compared to other commercial banks, or probably another mortgage company? Just trying to get an idea of what the difference is and what your company offers compared to others.
Okay, that's a good question. So I think for the last number of years now, the banks have seemed kind of hesitant to get back into the lending space. And I don't know exactly why that is. They're quite slow. Qualifications being quite difficult. And it just seems to me like they're trying to de-risk a little bit in the Caribbean region, which is kind of why you're seeing a lot of the secondary lenders like us who are becoming more and more prevalent, just because we're, basically taking the place of the banks because they're really not as active as you would expect in a booming market like this. So we don't compete with the banks. If they're going to do a deal for you and they can do it in a timely manner, obviously that's, where you're going to go. Our specialty is going to be based on speed and ease of qualification. We don't look at your credit. We don't look at your income. We don't care about those things really. We just want you to have enough down payment in the property so that if things were to go sideways, we feel comfortable in our situation that there's going to be enough equity there that we're going to get out and not lose any funds. And at the same token, we think that if you have enough money in it, your chances are you're not going to walk away from it, that you're going to do everything you can to make sure that you hold on to that property just because there's too much, funds in the home to walk away from that. So that's kind of, us compared to the banks in terms of, the other lenders that do similar kind of work to us. I guess we all have our little different niches. What we're trying to do is be very, we want to finance the best properties. We want to have the best borrowers. So the risk that we're looking at is we want to have a little bit higher loan to value. So we want to go where, say, some guys are going to 50%. We want to go a little bit higher to 60, 65%. And that's the risk that we want to take. But some other lenders out there are willing to take on a lot of different kinds of loans or different locations. And, that's their niche, and, this will be our niche. So, I think that there's a private lender out there for everybody, but, we're hoping that, obviously we're the first choice and people come to us first, but, we're not going to be the right fit for everybody.
One of the things you spoke about just previously was the bank's turnaround time. What is actually your turnaround time, like approximately?
It really depends how quickly the clients can get us their documentation. Normally, once we have the documents back, and if we had an appraisal done on the property already, we can approve it within a couple days. So we're very fast. Again, there are some delays that we can't, if the appraiser can't get out, or if they can't get into a condo, say, for example, that someone is renting, there's not a lot we can do about that. But speed is never going to be an issue with us. You're not going to, no deal is going to fall apart because we couldn't get it done in time. Generally the realtors know that it's going to take, say, 30 days from start to finish. For the client to buy the home. Obviously we can do it quicker if we're really put into that situation, but, I think that's kind of the norm, which I think, again, is a realistic time frame. Unfortunately, I think in the past, because the banks have been taking a long time to approve loans, that a lot of the realtors now are, trying to deter their clients from getting financing, just because it hasn't been a great option. And I think that's too bad, because there are some good private lenders out there. I mean, the rates are a little bit higher, but the option is definitely out there to finance, if you're willing to pay a little bit more.
Right. Like you said, the rates may be a bit higher, but just knowing that you can get that turnaround time, I think that's a very important point in purchasing a property, because some vendors are hesitant about lending as well, like you were mentioning before, because not knowing the turnaround time, because sometimes you set a date for, say, 30 days or 45 days, and they're still not sure if that person's going to be pre-approved. That's a hesitant for some vendors selling their property. So I mean, at least with like private financing like this, shorter turnaround time, I think will help a lot in movement of real estate and someone purchasing a property.
I think so. Yeah.
You also mentioned, I just want to inject about appraisers. You guys, do you select the appraiser that the customer is using, or do you give them choice of which appraiser they want to use?
We have our own preferred appraisers that we like to use. So we usually insist on, using ours. That's not to say, I mean, there's other good appraisers on island. And if, there was some special situation where, the guys we normally use can't get out there, we have no issue with the other guys. It's just for consistency. We like to say, well, our appraisals are done by this firm, or, that firm. But, yeah, we are kind of specific about the appraisals, and in some cases as well. I mean, if clients have lawyers they like to use, I mean, we know that some lawyers are better to deal with than others, so we might, have some preference there. But, again, we won't force a client to take, choose our lawyers. They can, definitely choose their own.
Okay, but they also have the option of using your lawyers if necessary.
Well, we use our lawyers; they act for us. So we always encourage the client to get their own lawyer for their side of the transaction. But again, there's certainly some lawyers are just easier to deal with than others. So, we certainly have some preferences there, but again, it's up to the client on who they want to use.
Right. Okay. I mean, it's good to know. I mean, just with regular banks as well, it's the same process where the purchaser is required to have their own lawyer to deal with their side of the transaction. But I also know in some special situations that once with the consent of both parties, sometimes the bank's attorney will also work for the purchaser. So that's why I was wondering as well if that can also be an option with you guys.
Yeah, so what we do in those situations is we'll have two different lawyers in the firm handle it, and there's no communication really in terms of, one acts for the client and the other one acts for us. And they call that a Chinese wall. So we can do that, but we encourage, just to keep things, at arm's length, we prefer to have their own lawyer.
Okay. So a question for you, in selling property, sometimes people want to take on ownership, just as a sole proprietor. Some wants to put it in a company's name. Is there a preference for you? And what do you think is the benefit of, from your standpoint, of doing one over the other?
Yeah, so there definitely is a preference for us. We actually insist that the client be in a company. And I can kind of touch on that for, in a second. I will say that, there is some benefits to doing it in a company name. We'll find American clients specifically will insist almost all the time to have their purchases done in a company name. And that's mostly because for legal purposes. So if, for example, someone falls down on their property and they are getting sued, they want to be sued in the company name versus being held personally responsible. Say some other countries like Canada and the UK, where it's not quite so litigious, they don't necessarily see the benefit as much as, say, Americans do. But we feel that it's important to be in a company name, mostly because, for I guess for our purposes, it's easier for us to deal with a mortgage that were to go into default. It's easier for us if that is in a company name than if it's in a personal name. Speed is, when you have a fund, non-performing loans are your biggest obstacle. That's the biggest challenge that you have. So getting control of those properties and making sure you're not losing money month to month is really quite key. So again, that's one of the reasons why we have clients put their purchase in a company name.
Okay. Let me say this, for someone who may be seeking a loan or mortgage for the first time, international person, are they required to have a bank account to be able to get a mortgage through your fund or not?
Not in TCI. So a lot of the people we deal with will just wire their payments from the US or Canada, if they're international. It's not always easy to open a bank account in TCI. It can take a little while. I think most clients, that is the goal, and it can take a little while to get there, but it just takes some time. But certainly whether they want to open a TCI bank account or whether they just want to send payments from home, we have no preference to it, either way, although it's probably a little cheaper for them in the long run to have the TCI bank account.
Okay. I'm just going to pause for a moment just to say, if any of you who are listening, if you have a question that you would really want to be answered today, please put it in the comment section just so we can get those questions for you. All right. I do have a lot more questions to ask, but just in case you have something that is really burning that you want to ask, please feel free to do so at this time. So my questions, again, this is about non-residents, just because I know, like you said before, you deal a lot with vacation property and real estate. Do you require customers who are non-residents overseas for the first time to be on island to be able to have a conversation with them or not?
No, we don't. It's better for us if we can meet with them. The process is a little bit quicker, a little bit easier, but if they are doing it from home and we're just dealing with them, virtually either by phone or by email, we do insist that they get all their documents notarized by a lawyer. So again, it's a little extra cost, a little more work, a little easier if they do it here, but we also understand that they'd probably rather, in the short amount of time they're here, they'd rather be on the beach than sitting in our office. So, we understand.
Okay. So what would you advise persons to do in preparation for obtaining a mortgage with your company? Preparation is key.
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. Talk to us first, quite honestly. I think a lot of people have this expectation when they get down here that they can just walk into a bank and get 5% financing, 5% down. And, there's no government insurance programs for non-residents. You can't just get 5% down if you're a non-resident in Turks and Caicos. Or a lot of people come down and think, well, I'm Canadian, I deal with these banks in Canada. I know I'm not going to have an issue. And again, that's not necessarily the case. They're not all, it's the same name on the sign, but it's not necessarily the same way of doing things. And it's not, this qualifying criteria can be different. So it's we encourage people to call us, let us know what they're looking to do. We'll let you know how much down payment you need, the areas that we lend, the rates, the cost of buying, all of that kind of stuff. And then that way they can make a little bit more of an informed decision, and it's not such a shock to suddenly learn that they're not going to be getting a bank mortgage. So it's really imperative, I think, for not only clients who come to us without dealing with a realtor, but especially if you're dealing with a realtor, have the realtor bring you over, and we can kind of give you an idea of what we can do.
Okay. All right, just one question. You had answered this question before, but I'm going to ask it again just because it just came up in the chat for someone who just showed up. What
Okay.
are the average term periods for loan? Oh, for loan repayment. Yeah.
Okay. So our terms are 1 to 3 years. And the reason why we only go to 3 years is because we don't want to lock ourselves into, say, for example, a really low rate. And if rates went up, we want to be able to adjust that rate. So we only go to 3 years, but that doesn't mean that that's how long you have to pay the loan off. So if, at the end of 3 years, we can just renew you into another 3-year term, and we can just keep doing that over and over until the mortgage is paid off. You also have the option. I mean, some people like to have their payments low, so we'll give them interest only payments and then allow them to pay down so much, say every second or third month, if they know that they get extra money those months and they want to put a little bit on the mortgage, on the principal amount, we let them do that. We allow up to 15% per year. So, we can work with clients to, kind of tailor the loan that works best for them. Some people like it amortized, so they know I'm going to have this thing paid off in 15 years. And other people think, well, you know what, I'm just going to pay the interest, and when I get a lump sum of money, I'm going to throw it on the mortgage. So again, that's up to the client.
Is there a period of time before there's a penalty for paying a lump sum?
Well, we allow 15% per year. So
Okay.
anytime during
Per
that year,
year.
they can do that. Yeah. So, we have no issue with you, even in the first year. If you want to do it in the first month, even that's not an issue for us at all.
Okay. So let me say this. Thank you for that. That answers the question. At what stage would the mortgage company decide to foreclose on a delinquent loan?
Yeah, that's a tricky one. We have, as a company, we're quite concerned with, trying to make those situations work. The last thing we really want to get into are, foreclosure or for sale situations. So if we can work with the client to get them out of that rut, we're going to do that. Again, it's just reputationally, we just don't want to be, taking over properties if we don't have to. But having said that, we have to protect our investors' interests. So if it looks like there's just no way we can, get that loan to be performing again, then, we will at that point force a sale. We'll assign a receiver and they will force the sale.
Okay. All right. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to put it in the chat at this time, because we are getting down to a close of what we want to talk about today. So let me ask you this: what do you foresee happening with mortgage rates? I like to ask that because I know that's a big concern about a lot of people. I know you don't have the crystal ball.
Yeah, it is.
So I'm not holding you
Certainly.
to it. Go ahead.
Well, certainly the rates are going up. Now, I've been following the private mortgage rates here on island since roughly 2010, and they've been around 8% that whole time. They really haven't moved that much. Having said that, if the rates really started to go up, though, I mean, we're never going to be cheaper than the banks. That's, just the way it is. So it's hard to say where they're going to go, but I don't foresee them getting, terribly higher. And again, we do let you lock in for up to 3 years. So that kind of gives some time for for things to cool down if the banks are kind of, the central banks are, really pushing the higher rates. So.
Mhm. I think, and also for some people too, within 3 years' time, I feel that if you decide to go with like a private bank like yourself, they can always decide to, if they want to move their mortgage over to a commercial bank at a lower rate before that time,
That's a great point. And I tell people, all the time that, we are really a short and midterm solution. We should never be the long-term goal. And, although the banks can be, slow at times to approve loans, if you do the loan with us initially and you build up some rental history in the home, there's no reason why you can't move it to a bank down the road. You just have to be a little bit patient. And, when you're not under the gun and you don't have that, 15 days to get your financing condition removed, you've got time to work with the bank and move the mortgage over there. And I think that should be the end goal for most clients.
Okay. So is there anything that we have not addressed that you feel like is very beneficial to understand about when working along with your company to obtain a mortgage?
We really just want people to know that the option is out there for financing, and we're a decent rate. We're only about a point and a half higher than the banks right now. And it's easy qualification, it's quick qualification. And, for, a lot of the realtors out there, we hope that they start telling the clients that, hey, there is a financing option on the island. And, we're, again, a good short-term to mid-term solution for clients who, until they get, over into the banks. Secondly, I should mention as well that there's really two sides to our company. We're a lending arm and we're also an investment arm. So in order for us to do loans, we have to get investment dollars in. And that's another opportunity for people who are on the island who want to invest some money. We turn these loans around and we lend them out to people and they get a good return on their investment. And again, we're, fairly risk averse, our company, and it's a safe, secure investment.
Because you said you're an investment company, so what's the minimum investment amount you have to make?
Well, we have, again, we don't have hard rules. We just kind of have guidelines, and we're hoping for kind of about 100,000 as a minimum, but that's not always going to be the case. The reason why it's not lower like some of the other firms is we don't want to operate like a bank account. We want clients to put their money into savings and just leave it in the savings, rather than, put it in and then have to take it out down the road, or, in a short amount of time. So we're hoping clients that, have those excess funds, throw them in the fund and leave them, and don't take them out until you absolutely need them.
What type of return on investment are we looking for if we invest in the fund?
So last month we had 6% cash return plus an increase in our NAV of about 0.75 or 0.74. So we are always shooting for a 6% cash return before we look at the difference in the share price. So again, if you're getting 1% at the bank or nothing at the bank in savings account, it's a great option and it's quite safe and secure.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, I agree with you. So having the money just sit in the bank, for true, you're not really making that return on the investment.
Right.
So what you're offering is really a good incentive. And just to go back a little bit to what you were speaking about, with the differences between using a mortgage fund and a bank, a lot of times the bank really don't tell you right off the top what the interest rate is. And sometimes we go to the commercial banks just expecting it to be extremely low. But like you said, you are probably like a point and a half just above the bank. And it is a very good solution for a quick short-term opportunity to be able to capture that property that you're looking for. And right now with the market moving like it is moving, sellers don't want, like we've said before, don't want to have to wait such a long period of time. So if you really want to be able to embrace the opportunity and get that property that you're looking at and win a bid over someone, perhaps you need to start considering, a company like yourself to be able to do that and achieve that real estate goal.
That's a great point. That's a great point. And like I said, I hadn't been following it that closely, but I just had a client tell me the other day when they asked what my rate was. And I said, I can give you 7.75 for up to 3 years. And they said, well, you're only a point higher than what the bank offered me. So, I don't know why I wasn't here first. So it's nice to know that we're, that competitive. But again, we're never going to be cheaper than the banks, but we hope that at the very least we're, in the ballpark.
Question for you. Does that apply? Is it the same rate for a vacant lot versus a home?
Vacant lots, we usually charge a little bit more, but it won't be much more than, somewhere in that 8.25 to 8.5, depending on where the land is. So it's kind of we price those on an individual basis, a case by case. But, right now it would be just over 8%.
Right. The reason I'm asking, because again, talking about the banks and us, and I've recently went through the process as well. And for vacant lot, it was like 9.5. So it was just good to know what you offer from a lending standpoint compared to the bank's interest rate. Because we often
and we'll do 60% financing on that. And again, very easy qualification, quick and easy, as long as it's a lot in an area that we like, Leeward, Chalk Sound, Turtle Tail, more of the touristy type areas where we know that those properties turn over quickly. Again, we'll do 60% on those and very easy qualification.
Just throwing it out there, do you have, what do you get more out, more interest in terms of land or, established properties, developed properties?
Lately, it's been developed properties that we're getting a lot of inquiries on. And I'm not sure why. I would say in the 6 months prior to that, I had a lot of inquiries on land, and maybe it's a lot of the land got snapped up. I really don't know. But lately, it's been a lot of existing villas and condos.
Okay. So I will say this do you have any closing remarks you would want to share before we wrap it up for today?
No, I thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk a little bit about ourselves. And again, because we're new, not everybody knows us. And we are hoping to, make a name for ourselves on the island.
So at this time, can you please at least share your contact information to let people know how to reach out to you?
I sure can. It's our phone number is 432-4040, 649, obviously. And our email address is vp@gpcfunds.com.
I'm just typing it in the chat.
Perfect.
vp@gpcfunds.com. Okay, so I've just typed that in the chat. So basically, at this time, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me on the show today. Actually, it was a pleasure. I'm glad that we were able to get the answers to all of these questions. I'm sure that there were a few aha moments for persons who are listening. Even for me as a realtor, we go through this all the time, but there were one or two ahas for myself, and even just talking about the interest rates, because I know that's a very big topic. For people who walk in the door, interest rate makes a big factor on where that person decides to get a mortgage. And I feel like that's the information you shared today is actually eye-opening to know that there isn't that much of a difference. And some benefits is obviously the turnaround time. Nobody wants to wait so long in line trying to know if they're going to be pre-qualified or not while waiting to make a purchase in real estate. So I will say this to you. Thank you so much again for coming. And for all those who are listening in, thank you for watching. And please reach out to Vaughn. If you have any investment or mortgage opportunities, please send him an email. And he has been really good in responding to my correspondence right away. So I'm sure he will extend the same courtesy to you. Have a good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much and have a blessed day.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed on this show belong solely to Let's Talk TCI Real Estate and not that of Keller Williams TCI or any of its affiliates. Any action you take upon the information provided on this show is strictly at your own risk, and Let's Talk TCI Real Estate guests or hosts will not be liable for any losses and damages in connection with the use of the material. I am not an investment advisor, broker, or dealer.